John and Graeme have always wanted to do a flashback season.
It's cool to go back, to put Sarah back in the footsteps that we met her in. I think is pretty interesting. You know, she has to go back to the beginning to move forward this season, and that means going back to what she thought she knew about Neolution and realizing, wow, it's a lot bigger than we thought.
And in order to figure out Neolution, you had to go back to Beth.
Honestly, right from, I remember Comic-Con after season 1, and I kind of jokingly said to the audience, mentioned a Beth episode, and people loved that idea in the room. And we talked about it a lot. We just couldn't figure out how to do it or where it would get placed.
All through season 3, John or Graeme would like throw things up on the board and we would remember them for the flashback season and ideas like that. And then really in May of 2015, the writer's room opened and we started going back, deeply back.
From a story point of view, the way it worked was that Beth knew way more than we thought she did. And so by revealing what Beth knows and then having Sarah set herself into Beth's shoes and follow that mystery, it really has a feel of kind of the beginning of season 1 again.
The answers to all of the questions that you have are always kind of right back at the beginning. Everything is circular, you know? It doesn't just keep going and expanding. Eventually there's an end and you had to go back and retrace your steps and you realize that you've been looking at everything from a restricted lens the whole time. There's so much more that you haven't seen yet.
First episode, it was surprise after surprise after surprise.
And as a fan, as well as an actor on the show, it's really cool because it's everything that I always wanted to know that I never had an answer for.
I think it's inevitable that our perceptions of Beth are going to change. And I think that's going to be really interesting for the audience to see. I know it's really exciting and fun for me to play. And I think the writers are doing a great job of sort of fleshing that out a little bit more.
It was months and months and months of sweat and tears. It was tough, you know, because anytime we sort of would go, the writers would go in one direction with a story and it would be really juicy and good, someone would be like, well, actually, that can't happen like that because this happened that way. So it was definitely, Orphan Black's always been a complicated show to make because of the layers of storytelling, but season 4 was by far the hardest because of going backwards and forwards and at the same time. And when you go backwards, you don't want to lose the momentum of moving forwards. So it's almost more important that every single thing that happens when you go backwards is vitally important to moving the story forward, which it just makes it so much harder to write. It's a great character episode because we get to be with one character the whole way through, but it's very plot heavy, especially once you watch the whole season and you kind of get to look back at what happened in that first episode that sort of informs the rest of the flashbacks up to episode 6 and 7.
The flashbacks sort of become, I guess, the information Sarah's getting in fragments and sort of piecing together the story as she's sort of putting it together. So the audience is kind of privy to that info, maybe a little more info than Sarah has, but Sarah and Beth's journeys, I think, really start to mirror each other in a kind of, they did from episode 1, but just they really kind of start to cross over in a cool way. I knew nothing about Beth. I knew, you know, bare bones that she jumped in front of a train for some reason, and that was kind of it, and that maybe she had a pill problem or some kind of problem with drugs or prescription pills, and so it was super cool to flesh her out and actually get to see the kind of the real person behind this sort of myth, this mythology. And I think all of the clones have such a reverence for Beth. It was like this, she was sort of put on this bizarre pedestal for a long time when really she was just sort of struggling under the weight of it like they all were.
We meet Beth so briefly in season 1. I mean, she takes her own life and we don't really know why. And that's sort of part of the big mystery of the show. But this year we actually get to see her as opposed to, you know, in seasons past, we just sort of see glimpses. We get to see, you know, how she walks, how she talks, you know, how she loves, what she wants, what she's missing. Like all these little human things that make us care.
Thank God for notes, because I'm a little bit anal about that, because you need to be. And on a show like this, I had no idea where it was going from the beginning. I had read some sort of a Bible, what we call a Bible, of where John and Graeme had the show going for potentially 5 seasons. was reading about a scientific group we never heard of in the church and the government, and I just thought, okay, I have no idea if this story is going to be linear at all, whether we're going to go back and forth. And every show I do, I keep old-fashioned printed photos written. They're not even done on a computer. They're like done longhand. And often people will get rid of that material and think, well, they're dead. I don't need it anymore. Into the recycling bin it goes. Thank God we didn't do that.
So many things go up on the board and so many things come off the board. Dylan Bruce was up on the board the whole time. And when we told him that his character was dying in this noble sacrifice, we were able to tell him that he'd be back for at least 1 or 2 episodes in season 4, because you can't tell Beth's story without telling Paul's backstory as well. Well, his backstory as a mole, a double mole, really. MK was developed with the comic books as a character named Vera Swomanen, and she was up there a lot the whole time, being sort of like a clone that was going to be involved in both Sarah's and Beth's backstory to sort of weave them together.
In the police station, Felix is back. Really great scene, I think, where people just cross and don't really take each other in. It's kind of great, the way it happens in real life, how people can just miss each other.
We always knew we wanted Leaky back, so he was always up on the board for both his head and his presence in season 4.
We had a number of characters that had only been really seen in season 1. Just even smaller characters like Raj or Angie, Art's partner in season 2. All these characters kind of making a return was really fun.
One of the characters I wish we could have had back was Ainsley in Alison's world, just for like a quick glimpse or something back when they were still friends, BFFs. But alas, there was not enough time.
It's terrifying, too, thinking that you're going to make a mistake or disappoint somebody. And it would be very easy to forget that this happens several episodes later. And some fan will catch you and say, now, wait a minute. There was a scar in that ring finger. And you think, oh, God, think fast. Do you know? Because those are the people that you just think are gone.
Well, yes, it's amazing that actually there is someone would pick up on little details, which we usually take it for granted. Oh, no one will see. It's only TV, no one will know it.
Everyone will notice, right?
If you're really stickler, you might notice that the lamps in Beth's bathroom are different. But no, it was interesting. I mean, our production designer has changed since season 1, and our hair artist has changed since season 1. So we had to loop in new people to old sets. Luckily, John and Graeme decided to keep almost every set we've ever used in big trucks, which drives the producers crazy, but ended up being really great because we could pull out Beth's condo and set it up, and we had everything we needed, other than the lamp sconces that were in her bathroom. And then you'll notice with the precinct, we felt like that set was a little claustrophobic to shoot in, and it was really labor intensive to move the desks around in season 1. So in season 4, we decided to create a different part of the precinct, which is the hallway set that you'll see. And we also designed a new boardroom because we had actually tossed the other boardroom. That was one set we got rid of. There are things that are different, but luckily in a precinct, there's lots of hallways and boardrooms. So, you know, we never said that she's in the same boardroom as Sarah was in season 1.
There was one thing I was hoping we were going to do, which we didn't end up doing, which was actually revisit the train station. And unfortunately, due to some structural changes that happened to the station, it no longer had a roof. And I think it was just sort of vetoed.
The train platform was one of the most difficult locations that we've ever shot in because it's an active train platform. We get it at midnight and we have to be out by 5 a.m. So you have 5 hours to shoot whatever you need to shoot there, which is such a small window of time to move in and move out.
My hope was to take that very first opening scene where we see Beth, step off into the train and put MK in the background of it, as if she had always sort of been there just off camera. John and I discussed it initially, sort of very early in sort of one of our earlier prep meetings. MK and Beth have this really touching scene in Beth's condo. I think her appearing at the station might take away from that dramatically.
And with the amount of dressing and vis effect work, it just wasn't worth our time to go back to the train platform for the scene that we would end up getting, and it was just it would cost way too much money. So even though we always wanted to go back to that very moment, we recreated it in a way on the bridge with Sarah and Beth when Sarah's in episode 7. That was our closest way to going right down to the tracks, and we're just above the tracks.
When Beth kind of comes back in these sort of visions or these hallucinations or whatever they are, yeah, we definitely get a sense of like, oh, Sarah is right at the same point that Beth might have been, you know, a year prior. And how does Sarah choose to not make that decision? Is she destined to make the decision that Beth did, or can she live for something? Is there something that she has left to live for? So it's such a fun episode.